Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ball Agenda Reveal Show. I'm joined on my left-hand side by no one today, and on my right-hand side by Mr. Mekawani. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. End of the season time. I'm ready to discuss and analyze the crazy day of football today, as well as the deserving award winners for our players of the season.
So we're going to start, as Mecca said, with the end of season awards. Each of us has spent some time thinking through, in the Premier League, different categories, a team of the season, and we'll walk through some of our thoughts, starting with Emeka's team of the season.
Okay. So for me, it's obviously it's always difficult, and you probably everyone has different opinions, and probably missed out a couple, but these were the players that stood out to me. I had many different ways I used to analyze it and the criteria I used. But to start with, for me,
you want to share some of those?
So for instance, not just numbers help, but not just numbers. Impact to your team's position, whether your team overperformed, exceeded expectations, criticism. Like if you're a player that got a lot of criticism and you bounce back and you stood strong, it's easy to pick out some players that did really well, but the pressure on them was not as much. So criticism to performance ratio as well. A new signing impact. Comparing maybe issues in your team last year, like Mendy, my keeper. They had issues with their keeper last year. He came in. There's been a change in that. Ruben Diaz. So I'll go into all those things. But so those are kind of different things I looked at. So for me, the keeper is Mendy, Edouard Mendy at Chelsea. I don't think he's the best keeper in the league, but I do think he made a very, very big impact to the team. His size, his strength, his aerial presence, and he's a surprisingly good shot stopper for being such a big guy. And his agility is quite underrated as well. Even the goal they conceded in the final against Leicester, I don't think he would have conceded that. I think Kepa is a weak link, and I think the impact he made on Chelsea's team, their solid defensive record, I think is a very, very big part of that. Tuchel's defensive structure helps, but I think he's a very, very big part of that. And for me, the impact and the change from the weaknesses we saw from Kepa last year was a big difference for me. And I think for me, he's my standout keeper for a team that I believe is the best defensive team in Europe at the moment.
When you because I know there's the argument that some people say in regards to or regarding the goal, Yuri Tielemans' goal. I don't know if you agree with the fact that Kepa inspires more confidence in people to shoot from range.
Yeah, for sure. You can tell. I remember, I think it was last season in the post-lockdown where Zaha just took a crazy shot from almost maybe 30, 35 yards out. Zaha doesn't do that, and he just did that based on, Kepa is shaky. I even looked at his footwork in the goal. There was a picture I saw, he barely jumped, So I think that the difference between the two and the difference in confidence that they inspire in their defenders, for me, is the jump and the impact he's made. I think that's why he's my standout for the season. Okay. So right back was Sufal, steady Eddie, and again, like I said, for me, exceeding expectations, and he's been fantastic this year as a wing back more often than not, but he's been solid. He's been solid, a good attacking threat, but also very solid defensively. Not the most talented player. If we're going to do the most talented players, then we would just have the best players in all the top teams. But for me, for the impact he's had on that West Ham team, and adding to their fairly solid defensive record and over exceeding expectations, fighting for the Champions League. Obviously now they've dropped off, but he's been a very, very reliable right back in the season where I don't think too many have stood out to me. And for me, the first centre back I'm going to go with is actually I wish that was Maguire, and I said Fofana was a candidate for me, but I went for Maguire because it's easy being a Fofana where you're young, you can make mistakes. I've watched games where he's made mistakes. He's been beaten quite easily in the air, mistimes the ball, but no one says anything, right? And anytime you do anything well, it's you're a young player, you're doing well, you're this wonder kid, and you get a lot of leeway. But Maguire, for how the season started for him, the criticism he got, the amount of flack he got for club and country, started off shaky. But since then, since the Spurs game, he's been absolutely sensational. If you look at the stats, he's leading the stats in, or one of the leaders in stats when it comes to headers, interceptions, clearances. Like he's a massive. He's very massive for us in our defensive set pieces. Offensively as well, he could score a lot more goals than he does, but he's always one of the first people to get his head on the ball. And I just think the way he's galvanized the team, carried the team, based on and considering all the scrutiny on him. Once he makes one mistake, other defenders can make a mistake or mistime a header or mistime, a ball, and it's okay. But Maguire, he got so much stake, and considering his weaknesses, that he's not the quickest, he's not the most agile. But if you look at the season and all the games you watch, how many times have you seen those weaknesses exposed? He's very, very good at masking his weaknesses. At the same time, like I said, he's very good at reading the game and intercepting the ball and very good in the air. And again, the Man United team that, apart from the Spurs game, like I said, defensively fairly solid till he left the last two games, where again the defensive frailties have come through, which is another way you can tell his impact. Even just those two games, without his presence, there has been a struggle. So for me, it's a lot of it is based on the flack he's got and the criticism he's got. Plus, I think people are actually now starting to realize that what, okay, he's not as good as Virgil van Dijk, but Maguire is easily one of the best defenders in the league, top 5 for me in the league, because he's carrying, I think, and probably has one of the most difficult jobs in English football, being the Manchester United captain and not being particularly rated at the start of the season till now. So credit to him, and credit to him for that. The
for the benefit of people who can't see this, I'll say you've gone for a 4-2-3-1 formation.
4-2-3-1. Yes, 4-2-3-1 for me. And his partner, Ruben Diaz, I don't even need to say too much on that. Arguably the signing of the season. Again, like I said, the difference in this year to last year. City conceded so many silly goals last year. You could tell so many. They were constantly chopping and changing. People thought he's what people thought Laporte was. Laporte is a very, very good defender and a very, very solid defender. But Diaz is Van Dijk-esque in terms of transforming the defense. His leadership is just 23, but you can see he's the leader. He makes John Stones look like the junior defender. And that's when you know a defender that has personality, good on the ball, but also a very, very, very good defender, good in the air, quick on the ground. And again, he reads the game well. But the most important thing is leadership. He's constantly, like Guardiola said, he's one of those defenders that he thinks for everyone. He doesn't just think for himself. So he's constantly thinking for the other defender, marshalling his defenders right and left. And credit to him in his first season as a 23-year-old coming from the Portuguese league to completely transform a defense where they were not conceding goals for loads of games, and obviously taking them to the Champions League final, which shouldn't really matter, but again, it just kind of encapsulates his impact. So credit to him, and I would say it's the signing of the season, but we'll get into that as well. Left back for me was a toss up of Luke Shaw and Cresswell, but again, I go for Luke Shaw. Cresswell had more assists. Cresswell was a better set piece taker, I would say, but chances created, again, impact on the team, and again, similar to Maguire, is the bounce back ability factor. Again, he was written off, unfit, had his issues, had his injuries, lost confidence. But now you're seeing a defender that attacks with so much purpose. He, at the point in the season, he had like the most chances created in the league. He has 5 assists in the league. Cresswell has about 8 or 9, I think. But obviously, most of them are from set pieces, where West Ham are just generally better at set pieces than Man United. But when you look at chances created, and defensively, offensively, Luke Shaw is very, very good one-on-one. And I said this season, he's going for with so much purpose. His touch, his technique, his passing. For me, he's been the best left back in the league. And again, I give him credit because I don't think anybody saw this. Even my United fans that didn't see this were crying out for a left back in the start of the season. But he's proven himself to be. People were shouting about Chilwell, Reguilon, all these people, and not saying they're bad players, but shout credit to Luke Shaw to have had better seasons than them. And if he started the season, I'm sure on most people's list, he probably have been third out of those 3 in terms of people's viewings on him. So, and he's got himself back in the England squad. So credit to him. My 2 DMs will be Gundogan. I don't want to go so it's not too long. Gundogan and Ndidi. I put Gundogan there just based on, I don't want to put too many Man City players, and I feel he's been Manchester City's best midfielder this season. 12 goals in the league, the most he's ever scored in his career. I think in maybe the previous 160 something games in his career, he scored maybe I think a similar amount to that. And when De Bruyne was injured and City were going through their wobbly phase where people thought they were not really going to do much this season, he was the one that came through for them, scoring week in, week out. Even though my pride didn't let me put in my FPL team, but at that time I missed out on a lot of points. But yeah, no, he stepped up for them. He completely changed his role and showed us some offensive instincts that I don't think we thought he had. And he carried that team at a point where they needed him, when there was no Foden, when there was no Mahrez as consistently as Foden and Mahrez are now. There was no KDB. It was Gundogan and Diaz and that defense that carried them through that rocky period and made it a comfortable title win for them. So I think he deserves all the credit in the world this season. His partner will be Wilf in DD. And again, you have to spread things out because it would be easy to just put KDB, he's the best player in the league. But again, that impact on a team that is overperforming year in, year out. Leicester.
Would you agree with me? Sorry to cut you off. Would you agree with me if I said I don't think De Bruyne has been in City's top 5 best players in the league this season?
Yeah, in the league, I mean, maybe you can give him 5th, but you definitely put Diaz, maybe even Cancelo. Then you have.
I didn't even put Cancelo.
Mahrez,
I didn't even put Mahrez. I was thinking, so holding on to Cancelo and Mahrez in one hand, I'm thinking Stones, Diaz, that for sure. Gundogan.
Yeah.
Foden.
Yeah.
And I actually think I had Mahrez.
Think of Mahrez, yeah. So he's not. This hasn't been his best season, but again, when you're the best player in the league, he had his moments, and he's been influential in sports. But yeah, I still think City could have won this title without him this year.
They did.
Yeah, exactly. With the break, so I think I was a bit biased in trying to put him at first because again, it's hard to not have the best player in the league in your team. But yeah, for me, I had to go with Gundogan as the best City midfielder. Then Ndidi, because for me, again, Leicester have no business doing what they're doing year in, year out. They've had injuries, including Wilfred at a time as well, but he came back strong. And just the impact he has on that team, he's their linchpin defensively. They had Maddison out, they had Barnes out, changed the system. And again, he's still being that constant where always in the top 2, top 3 tackles one in the league, short passing, just a steady calming influence for them. And consistently, Leicester being in top 3, top 4 in Premier League should not be. And I think he's one of the key reasons for that, along with Kelechi, because Vardy hasn't had his best season. So I give indeed a lot of credit for that. And even yesterday in the final, again, you can see he's a damn good player. He's a damn good player. So my number 10 for me would be Bruno Fernandes. I don't think I need to say too much on that. I think he's, despite any criticism he will get, I think he's one of the most influential players in the league. Forget numbers alone, just his presence on the team, the chances he creates for his teammates, always there. Might not score, might not assist, but he's a constant. He's a leader in that team. He's probably the leader in the team, and just his attitude. And again, when you look at your team of the city, you're looking at players that if they were not in that team, what would that team be? And I think Man United will be way off. I don't want to bring up the numbers, but I mean 28 goals in the season, in the whole season. I'll be 17 in the Premier League, or 18 now actually. But so I think he's a fantastic player, and he's been the best number 10 in the league this season. 9
open play goals of those 18 though. So,
and I think about 16, 17 in all competitions, open players. I don't think many other number 10s have that. So we'll take it. It's okay.
Say that again.
I said I don't think, and in the whole season it's not 16 or 17.
No, 13 penalties, 1 free kick is 14 of the 28. So 14 open play goals.
So free kicks don't count.
So I'm saying 14 open play goals.
No, but yeah, so he has 13 penalties, right? 28 goals, 13 penalties.
Yeah.
So we don't count free kicks anymore.
As an open play goal?
No, so are you now taking it away from him that he scored a free kick?
No. I'm just saying open play goals is okay. So 14. It's just always crazy to me when I think about the numbers.
Okay, but he doesn't take set pieces, right? As well. So instead of like corners and stuff. So what of the assists do those count? Or?
No, a lot of them are good valid assists. Yeah, Fernandes is in my team. No Fernandes hate here. I'm an objective guy. We don't bring agendas here.
On the right, for me, it'd be Salah. It's been a down year for his team. And I think when you know someone is brilliant is when they do crazy things, and I don't think people shout anymore. Salah has 31 goals in 49 games. So I'm 22 in the Premier League in a down year for his team. and he still casually has that. And I don't think he's spoken about enough. Like Harry Kane, to be fair, I would say he's got a lot of credit for his 22 goals and obviously the assists as well. And Liverpool are not doing any better, and Tottenham are not doing any better than Liverpool are. But Salah, I don't think Salah has been spoken about enough. I know Liverpool had a terrible run of 6 home defeats, and that should be held against him because, I mean, I know the team was in disarray and he did his part, but he should be taken against him slightly. But he's a phenomenal player. You see today again, the goal he scored out of nothing, just curled it from outside the box, bottom corner. I don't think there's been a better right winger than him. Mahrez was a consideration because he's come to the fore this year as one of City's main men, but I don't think I had to put Salah in there. Again,
which is one of my gripes with someone like Pep Guardiola. And this is another argument for another time, but it's why I never really am fully on the Pep train. He took Mahrez, who was the best player in the league, and turned him into a bit part player for the team.
Yeah.
And now that he's doing what he's doing, people are like, oh my goodness, Mahrez. I'm like, this dude was doing this for Leicester week in, week out.
Yeah. So that's why Pep sometimes doesn't get the credit, because it's just a wealth of talent. And like you said, you can make one of the best players in the league just be a small cog in your system. You know, even KDB shines, like the way Bruno shines as the man. Like KDB, sometimes it's just like he's just part of it. He's the best player in a not constricted in the way they play, but like in the way Pep wants to play. He's just a very key cog in it. He's not the guy that everything must happen through. He's just the best player that obviously shows himself and has incredible moments. But without him, they still play the same way. They still, so yeah, left wing was Son. Incredible start to the season and a fairly poor second half of the season. I know he had some injuries, but he's been consistently, I would say, the best left winger this season. Incredible finisher. His finishing has become so good now, where he doesn't really miss chances. One-on-ones, he's one of the most, and he wasn't always like this. But
it's so crazy to me. I never used to think of him as that, but literally doesn't miss any chances.
Yeah, one of the most clinical finishers in the league. Like I said, he definitely should get some flack too for the way Spurs fell off. But in terms of left wingers this season, I feel he has to be there. His numbers are good, assists are good, and overall in totality, he's been the best left winger in the league this season. And obviously, number 9 this year is no question. Harry Kane, 22 goals, 13 assists. He's been quality. He's been quality for Spurs in a Spurs team where they had issues with the manager, issues with cohesion on the team, poor performance in the back. He will score 2 goals. Aurier will go and do a handball, and everything is ruined. So I feel for him, but yeah, he's been the best striker in the league this season, arguably the best player in the league this season, and he's shown us a different side of his game. We always knew he liked to drop back a bit, but now he's also shown the ability to give that final ball consistently. And obviously his partnership with Son, both of them had to be in this team, and he definitely had to be the number 9 on this team. So that's what I'll go with for my 11.
Yeah, I actually saved that for later. Onto your substitutes. We can go through those really quickly.
Okay. Yeah, Martinez for me he has to be there. Obviously part of the defense, but a defensive strength that they have, but he's been very solid for them. One of the, I think maybe 15 clean sheets in 36, 37 games. So yeah, he's been solid. Cresswell, like I said, he and Luke Shaw, they toss up. But again, West Ham's overperformance and over-exceeding expectations and his set-piece prowess, West Ham have really, really benefited from that. And again, even defensively, he's solid. He's not that quick, but he's solid. And he's able to give you your attacking returns as a left wing back and sometimes as a left centre back when needed. So credit to him. Rashford, for me, he's the highest goal scoring, second highest goal scorer winner in the league, apart from Son with 11 goals, got 9 assists. He's had a solid season. I still think he's developing, but he had a very solid season. And another player I feel that doesn't necessarily get the credit he deserves, but I can see a more well-rounded player forming, but he still definitely needs to improve some facets of his game. But again, in a team that's second and I said 20 goal contributions this season, I think he's been very good. And second highest goal scoring winger in the Premier League, apart from Son, I think is a credit to him. Souček, again, another member of that West Ham team that I've fallen in love with this season. Had a slow second half of the season, but started well, solid in midfield, set piece threats, got some crucial goals for them. And again, another player that without him, I don't think West Ham will be where they are this season. Bamford and Dallas, I'll do them as a duo for Leeds. Just part of that magical Bielsa Leeds team that have wowed the Premier League and absolutely destroyed Burnley the other day. And I love Bamford just because he plays such a clean game. His technique, his touch, he's just such a very refined player. Not the quickest, but he's a clean finisher at times. But his overall technique is really, really clean, and he brings players into the game. His partnership with Rafinha, especially, I really enjoyed. And Dallas, FPL dream, FPL manager's dream, grabs goals, can play anywhere. And there's no reason why a 29-year-old Scotsman that's playing his first Premier League season should be this good. Yeah. So credit to him. And Mahrez, like I said, this year he's finally come to the fore. He's just been a big part player. When there was Sané, obviously Sterling on form, we always just wondered, where is the Mahrez in at Leicester? But now in the Premier League and the Champions League, he's shown himself to be one of City's main men, if not their main attacking threat at the moment, because they have no striker. So credit to him for finally really showing himself in the City shirt.
Awesome. And then lastly, your awards.
Okay. I haven't done manager.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It's still here, right?
So in your team, you had your coach as Brendan Rodgers and your assistant as David Moyes. Yeah.
Okay, so players of the season. So my player of the season is Bruno Fernandes. And the main reason I'm giving him that Harry Kane was a toss-up between he and Harry Kane. But just because of how Spurs have capitulated this season, I can't give it to Harry Kane. They were challenging for the league, and they didn't just fall off by one. They've fallen off completely, where they can't even qualify for the Champions League. And I know I shouldn't count the Europa League debacle, but I don't. But I just feel like it encompasses what has happened, encapsulates what's happened to Spurs this season, where they're bottle jobs, and unfortunately Harry Kane is not the defender. He's not defending. He's not the one conceding the goals, and he actually scores. And
he actually does a lot of defending too.
His teammates let him down, but I feel in that key moment of the season where Spurs fell off, he didn't come to the fore really, and he's actually not scored in a lot of big games this season. I was reading some Spurs fans talking about it, that again in another big game, Harry Kane didn't come through, and I don't think that's a general accusation of him. But this season, I feel he has great numbers, and he's been one of the best players in the league this season. But he can't be player of the year for me when you're fighting for 6th, 7th in this season. So I'm not going to have that.
Can I have 2 points there?
Okay, go ahead.
One point is if you take that into account, what happened in Europe, why don't you think so? Bruno Fernandes was in the team that was kicked out of the Champions League. And then secondly, if you take into account scoring, Leipzig. Yeah, kicked out of the Champions League.
But they're about to win Europa.
That
Harry Kane got knocked out of.
That was a debacle. Yes or no?
Yeah, but like I said, I'm not. But that doesn't sum up United's season. The Europa League exit for Spurs.
That's just because you're trying to make the best out of the situation. That was the point where this season there's nothing.
I don't think so. I think the Spurs season completely ended that night pretty much. And again, for me, I'm not judging him for that performance, but I'm telling you that has summed up Spurs' season. And for me, I can't give him the player of the year when you go from challenging for the league and everyone is giddy, saying, Spurs and Kane best duo in Europe. Mourinho is back, to where you're 7th place. You lost the cup final, and you didn't score. You didn't score in a lot of big games that you were needed to score in. So, and
my second point. Let me give you my second point.
Yeah.
If we talk about big games, how come Bruno Fernandes be a player of the season, scoring in big games?
Because first of all, so his job is not actually to score. So just because he scores, that is not his job. So I'm sorry. So again, you can't compare. So it's not just about stats, but Harry Kane scores. He's the goal scorer. He's the main man in the team that is goal scorer, and now obviously main assister. But the point is, in a lot of these games, he didn't score, and now they're 7th or whatever they are. So
yeah, I don't think I necessarily agree with that, because he scored against United, scored against Arsenal, which is members of the Big Six. So I don't know where that.
So again, in the games that they so Well, what was that? Let me open the fixtures. So they've been trying to fight for fourth, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So 1 second. So they're trying to fight for fourth. So that the Leeds game, Man City obviously cup final, nothing there. Southampton at home, okay, they did that. The United game, that was a very big one. The United game at home, a very, very, very big one. And of course, nothing there. United,
but they away one, he scored twice.
Pretty much. Yeah, no. So that was that's exactly why he's in the running for the Player of the Year. He had those moments, and Spurs were at the start of the season challenging for the league, and now they're 6th or 7th fighting for Europa, and lost in the cup final, got kicked out of Europe. So for me, he can't be the best player in the Premier League this season. It's between really Bruno, Ruben Diaz, and I'm just going Bruno just because of the numbers are there, the impact on the team. I think he's one of those players, like with Ruben Diaz as well. Like if you take out Bruno Fernandes from the Manchester United team this season, there's no way he'll be second. I think he's that important to the team, and he has the numbers. He scored 28 goals this season. Like I said, penalties or not, Harry Kane takes penalties. Frank Lampard took penalties. He broke Frank Lampard's record. I think Bruno is a fantastic player.
That's manipulating statistics.
I think how so?
Lampard scored 10 penalties in that season.
I didn't say the amount of penalties he scored.
Yeah, you said Lampard take penalties as well.
They both take penalties. I mean, you said Bruno has taken 13 penalties this season.
Yeah.
Okay, so 10 and 13. What's the big difference? I don't know.
Okay.
No, but it's a fact. Like he scored 13 penalties out of 28. Lampard scored 10 out of 28, and Bruno still has how many games to go? Okay. So I think he's the best player in the league. He's been the best player in the league this season. And honorable mentions to Ruben Diaz and Harry Kane. Signing of the season will be Ruben Diaz for me. I've already gone on about this. The impact he's had to change the team, and he was the linchpin of a City team that was different to any other City team we've ever seen. A City team based on their defensive prowess with no striker, and when they were struggling offensively and they were still figuring out how they were going to play with Aguero out, Jesus out and inconsistent, he and Gundogan were the main guys to carry and do the heavy lifting. And the fact that he's, again, without Ruben Diaz, I don't know where they would have been, especially in that period where they were figuring things out. Pep was changing system, playing with a double pivot, then playing a 4-1-4-1, playing a 4-2-3-1, playing with strikers, no strikers. But he was the linchpin of that team at that point in time. And for me, I think he's definitely been the sign of the season. Young player for me was a toss-up with Mason Mount and Phil Foden, but I'm going to give it to Foden just because the numbers are there. Numbers are better. I told you in a few podcasts ago, Foden is a damn good finisher. He's so clean on the ball. He's skillful. That stopper Iniesta is not for sure because he's actually, like, the way he moves. And for me, the reason I'm going to give him because his team won the league and he's now finally become a key member in that team. And he doesn't shoulder the responsibility that Mount does yet. And I do think that's a credit to Mount, where he's actually like Chelsea's go-to guy and probably their best player. But Foden, the productivity, the stats, but now he's actually a key member in a team that plays without a striker. And his play from wide, along with Mahrez, either on the left or on the right or whatever, or as a false nine, his play is very integral to this team that has won the league without a striker and could win the Champions League without a striker. And I feel for a 20-year-old to have the game intelligence and the positional intelligence, the tactical intelligence that he does is a big, big, big credit to him. And again, it's just a joy to watch. And so for me, he has to be the young player of the season. Brendan Rodgers, for me, the coach of the season. I was thinking of giving it to David Moyes. And I didn't first of all, because obviously it tailed off a bit. But I was also thinking about it. Why? Like Leicester they're not so far off from West Ham that we will say West Ham overachieved and Leicester aren't overachieving. I know Leicester have spent a bit more. They were able to buy Fofana for about 30 million. But in general, Leicester are really, really overachieving, especially when you look at the amount of injuries they've had when they lost. They started the season playing 4-2-3-1 and they lost their best wingers. They lost Harvey Barnes. Obviously, they sold Demarai Gray, but they lost Harvey Barnes. Then they lost their number 10. They lost Maddison. And then he now completely changed system to play 3 at the back with 2 strikers. And now they have a very good chance of qualifying for the Champions League and they've won a trophy. So it would have been a bit unfair to make it seem like David Moyes was, like he has
I
really, really
think the
overachieved.
argument there is
Yeah,
Delta. Last season, Leicester were in top four for most of the season and
yeah,
finished fifth. Last
yeah,
season, West Ham were about to get relegated.
yeah. But
So
that's my point.
the
My point is that
delta
we're
is
still.
is insane. Regardless of how much you spent, that's the
I
equivalent
don't think.
of like a Brighton of last season pushing for the top four. That's literally what David Moyes has done. So
Yeah,
I
but my
think we
point is
need
that
to,
I don't think. But my point is I don't think that's fair because it's just like because Rogers is constantly overachieving. So like I feel like it's a continuation of that where like not because okay, so you say like the gap last year, but like Rogers had no business being there last year as well because they had a lot of injuries as well, and he's still consistently finishing above a lot of the big boys. So like, and the fact that he's doing that again in a year where in a COVID year didn't make that many signings, and he had to completely restructure the way the team played and the way the team set up, and he ended up winning a trophy, which shouldn't count. But again, you know how these things in totality do count as well. So David Moore is an honorable mention because yes, it's an incredible achievement. But you can see once they started losing some key players, once they lost Rice, they lost Antonio, Lingard got off form a bit. The whole season has kind of capitulated. But Rodgers had to deal with this. No Evans now. Then I said Madison in and out of the team. They lost Ayuse Perez at the time. They lost Javi Barnes, which was fantastic for them. They lost Ndidi at a point, and they're playing like Chowdhury, playing not fellow Mendy, what's his name? Now please Mendy, and he just made it work. He just keeps it rolling, and I think he deserves credit for that. And now he's won his first trophy in England, and I'm happy for him. Goal of the season, I think, pretty straightforward one. I think Lamela, our Arsenal, the Rabona in a North London derby. I think nothing needs to be oversaid on that. Very team for that. So that's my goal of the season.
Perfect. We'll quickly run through Chinedu since he's not here. For Chinedu's team, Chinedu opted for what looks like a 4-3-3. And on the left, you have Shaw for the reasons mentioned before. Sofa, which we've kind of talked about. Martinez, I think one of the probably highest number of saves, tons of clean sheets. If not for City's incredible record, would really still be in the running for Golden Gloves. Then you also have Fofana, who you kind of talked about, a new young defender coming in at Leicester, really making that place his own. And Didi, kind of at the base of the three, talked about him. Mount, I think, is basically carrying Chelsea, being the go-to man in his second full season, really bringing back memories from when they had Mr. Chelsea's. So I think definitely a very, very good shout in there in the midfield. Fernandez for the reasons mentioned before. Salah, Son, Kane up top. I think pretty standard. Coach.
Yeah, self-explanatory.
Yeah, coach Pep Guardiola, assistant coach Brendan Rodgers. And then the substitutes, you have Mendy, which I assume is the great form when he came in, like you said, galvanizing the team. Stones reborn this season. Wan-Bissaka has been a very good defensive player for United. Probably a little overshadowed by Luke Shaw, but has really held his own in big games against big players and becoming a very, very assured defender. Still not quite what you want going forward, but defensively, I think making a good case for that 26-man squad in the summer, and giving Southgate a bit more options. You also have Souček, for reasons mentioned before. N'Golo Kante, it's probably Mr. Consistency over the last 5-6 years. And another great season this season that started to show more and more at the tail end. And Rashford, mentioned before, and Mahrez as well. Then his awards, player of the season, Harry Kane. Yes. Signing of the season, Ruben Diaz. And young player of the season, Mason Mount. Coach of the season, Pep Guardiola. And goal of the season, the emphatic overhead kick from Sebastian Haller against Crystal Palace. Now over to Fayem's team of the season. So I have the coach as David Moyes and the assistant coach as Marcelo Bielsa. Back to what I said, the equivalent to me of what David Moyes has done is if next season Graham Potter pushes for the Champions League with Brighton. I think that's the level of that delta, and I think that that has just been incredible to see, because he came in at a similar time to people like Mikel Arteta, who had an easier job, and he's completely outperformed and surpassed a team that was better than his when he took over. And I think when you have those good comparison time frames with other people, it really puts in perspective what he's done. And I think he's done a fantastic job. Bielsa, I really, really wanted to make him my coach of the season, really because Leeds have never looked like they were going back down, which is huge for a team that just came up this season. They really have built a foundation to do even better next season. A lot of the players, Bamford, really finally doing it on Premier League level when people said he couldn't. People like Rafinha, finding a system that worked against all the big boys. Leeds played their game right since the beginning, the 4-3 against Liverpool, and they've continued to play their game all season. At this end of the season, they're still not gassing out, still going to Turf Moor, putting up performances. I think everyone we've known that they bought into the philosophy, but it's really showed, and it's not just for romantics. It's actually worked, and Leeds have really probably been the most exciting team to watch this season, regardless of who's winning and who's top. Like, they score goals every game. They create tons of chances. They have very, very intricate and interesting patterns of play. And I think Bielsa has clearly done a ton of work on the training ground, so credit to him. I've gone here for a 4-1-2-1-2. Martinez, for the reasons mentioned before, he has been exceptional. Aston Villa, he's definitely been Aston Villa's player of the season. Jack Grealish was about to be that until the injuries, but I think Martinez has really been the reason why they're still where they are, and especially in games where they don't create anything and they just get one, maybe El Ghazi goal, who's someone else that's also put on my bench because he's really been good. They'll just get the odd El Ghazi goal or Watkins goal, backs against the wall. Martinez pulling off 7s, 8s in terms of number of saves in the game and just really commanding his box. He's made a few mistakes in some games, but just overall, I think he's been so consistent. Luke Shaw on the left, we've talked a lot about. We've talked about Diaz. We've talked about Stones. As the centre-back pairing, there's not much to say there. Luke Ayling, I put as my right back because it's just been so solid for Leeds. Has played as a centre-back, has played as a right back, has pretty much had similar numbers in terms of attacking sort of underlying stats as Dallas. And it's funny how he didn't have any attacking returns and Dallas scored like 10 goals. But it showed just the threat that he has provided on that side. And also in his first season with Leeds here in Premier League, I thought it was also, as captain, I thought it was just a really, really solid season from him. And it was between him and Soufal, and I just thought he pipped it because of how well Leeds have actually played this season.
Yeah.
At the base of my midfield, I have Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. I actually realized I misspelled his name, but the third most tackles of any midfield of any player in the league. First is actually Ayling, and he led that for long periods in the season. I think when you talk about Spurs players that have let Kane down, there are few players that you can say have not let Kane down. And Højbjerg is definitely one of those. Definitely has been the mainstay in that midfield. I think he's played every single game. When there's the chopping and changing happening, he's still there, biting into tackles in the midfield. At the start of the season, formed that partnership that really was working for them. And I think overall has just been Mr. Consistency for them in the midfield and giving the foundation to the attacking players to go do what they're doing now and did for large parts of the season. So Højbjerg for me there. Gundogan, we've talked about, City's player of the season, not much to say there. Then Fernandes, the other person in the 2. The numbers are there, creating chances, and the presence we've talked about on the team with just bringing other people into play and just feeling like something is about to happen when he's on the pitch. I think that's been huge. What I have as the one behind the 2 is actually Harry Kane, which is essentially what he's done all season. And it's different from what most people would have him as the number 9. But I think have loved how he's dropped deeper this season and has really blossomed with having those runners, and that's mostly been people like Son and Bergwijn. And I think having these two clinical finishers in front of him, he'll really put out some serious assist numbers, as well as when chances come, be able to slot them away. Son is up there because I think he's just the best finisher in the league, and has shown that this season. When you do FPL a ton, you read all these underlying stats, and Son's underlying stats for XG and expected goal involvement per game were like 50th or really, really low numbers for players in the league. And yet he's scoring more than everyone, because you just get one chance and he's going to score, but players were getting those chances a lot and not finishing. I remember especially the Liverpool game, the first one, where they basically didn't really attack all half, and then they just got one chance at the end of the first half and he puts it away. And that was when I really started to see that, okay, he really just doesn't miss any chances. And then Salah, 22 goals, just scored again today. I think that strike partnership of theirs is really, really potent, and I'm very, very excited for this team. I think it has defensive balance as well as lots of attacking creativity.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good team. And I like the shape. I like the diamonds generally anyway. Like I said, putting Kane there, especially how he's played this season, I think is a good shout, and having those runners in front would work well. The only two I would question slightly are just Stones. First of all, like I okay, again, like with the Maguire thing, I'll give that to him as a comeback player. Like I do think he's been Joe Gomez, like how like
yeah.
but I get that, and especially how good City have been defensively. I'll give him that as a partnership. But yeah, Ayling and Højbjerg. Ayling, I get the sentiment, but as a defender, first of all, he said he's going into good positions. Attacking returns, nothing, and they've conceded a lot of goals.
Yeah.
A lot of goals. So I'll still have stuck with my Sufal. And Højbjerg, I can give you, he too also started the season very well. And again, part of this Spurs team very well, very solid defensively. He looked like the missing piece, but again, it's kind of a player where he lacks his technical ability. I mean, he's okay. He can dictate by spreading the ball, like short passes, give it to the more talented players. But I feel he's also struggled a bit recently. When I watch him, because of the dysfunction in the team, you can just tell that. I remember it was against United when Pogba sat him down. Like he's a limited player, but in a very good team, I think he could show his abilities. But right now, because of the way Spurs is and his lack of real ability on the ball, like I just don't think he's been the best this season. But he had a very, very good start. So I'll still have put either Kante or Ndidi or whatever ahead of him. But like I said, in terms of his tackling, especially on how he started the season, I mean, I can understand it, but I just struggle to put him there as considering how the season has panned out. But yeah, overall a pretty solid team. I think Martinez and David Moyes as well is a good shout. I said it was a close one for him between him and Rodgers. Maybe the FA Cup tilted it, but for me, I just wouldn't punish Rodgers, because if you're constantly overachieving, you're getting punished for that, because it's like, okay, you did it again. But if Leicester had a season and they were like 8th or 9th, and let's say Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs, all these teams are ahead of them, I don't think everybody would be like, you know what, they overachieved, and it's like they overachieved last year, but now they've kind of come back to means by like being 8th, by being 7th, by being like 9th. But because they're constantly in that top 3, top 4, I think we're kind of punishing them slightly. But David Moyes has been sensational this season as well. So I don't think you can go wrong with either.
Because I don't even think David Moyes ever did this well with even Everton. I think they had one season where they
did. Yeah, he
finished in top 4,
but
yeah, they did have that one top 4 season. But this season has just felt different. Maybe because Everton and largely due to David Moyes was seen as a good team. West Ham are not seen as a good team by pretty much anyone. And I think he was another thing I'll give him credit for, and only because it was really tough for me to make my bench, did Lingard not make it, but he was really shrewd in transfer market. People like bringing in Benrahma, bringing in Jesse Lingard in January, I think really gave them that additional, that second boost.
Dawson.
Yeah, Craig Dawson. He had like a run of 5 games that were horrible, but before that, he was really really sorted out the defensive problems, and they coped with the injury to Rice, the consistent injuries to Antonio, figured out what to do up front with the Bowens, Lingards, Benrahmas, Fornals, and just balancing all that attacking power. And I think David Moyes just did a very fantastic job, so I can't give him enough credit.
Yeah.
So my bench, I already said, honorable mention was Jesse Lingard. I have Meslier, who was a huge shout for my young player of the season. I really wanted it to be him. He has just been exceptional. He's a fantastic shot stopper, really good with the ball at his feet. He's made mistakes this season, but that's what you expect when you play out from the back and you play the system that Leeds do. But with those mistakes, even at his young age, he still is completely bought into the philosophy, continues to look confident on the ball. And when called upon, he's made some really, really fantastic saves for Leeds. So I definitely had to have him in there as my substitute goalkeeper. Thiago Silva, the impact on that team and that defense as a leader, coming in, he didn't have to really prove himself, but coming in with the hunger to prove himself is the big thing, and actually doing it now in talks to renew his contract. For when a lot of people said I was just here for one season, really performed that well that they want to renew his contract, and we've all seen it. I think that's huge. Rafinha has been exceptional. I think he's probably going to get a big money move this summer. He's just been incredible. His assist numbers, his goal scoring, linking up with Bamford. And he started the season off pretty slow. Wasn't really starting games at the start. But once he started getting game time and going to that groove, he was pretty much the best player for weeks on end. And they had players like Dallas and Bamford overperforming, and Rafinha was still that guy. Souček, I love Souček. So many goals at the first half of the season. Feels like that David Moyes type of player when Fellaini was really good technically, but also very physical. And Souček was last season the talisman that really was important to them staying up. And then this season has been one of their most important players, important goals, and important performances. Senior man Kelechi, I'm not sure. The form since February, March till now, I think is nuts. When Leicester, and who knows, they might still, but when Leicester typically do get a bunch of injuries and start to taper off in the season, he stepped up this season to try to make that a little different, because normally that's what happens. They get injured, they stop scoring goals, they start losing stupid games, and then they ultimately miss out. And when they lost Maddison, Barnes, and Rodgers had to figure out a new attacking solution, not only did he come on and make his presence known, he nailed down that spot and really gave Rodgers selection headaches. And now I think he's one of the first names on the team sheet. He's giving a very good account of himself in terms of succession for Vardy, because I know that was a big thing Leicester have been trying to figure out, and he's looked like he can lead that line. He can score the important goals against anyone and do so consistently. That's huge. Dallas, we talked about, it's incredible that is what he's doing in his first season in the league. And Mahrez, he's done this, and I was very, very upset that he bought him for 60 million and we're playing him on the bench, because you know that he can do this, and he's done it. And this season, he's just really come into his own, scoring important goals, having really, really important performances, and nailing down his starting spots, even with all the pep roulette. Now he's being rested because they're going to play him in bigger games versus before when he was just being benched. And that's huge. I think he's had a fantastic second half of the season. And yeah, I think that is my bench.
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that. Rafinha, Souček, Kelechi. I thought about him, but I just thought because it's been quite a short amount of time. But I mean, the impact has been incredible. So, Thiago Silva as well. Yeah, I can't argue with that.
I think he was robbed of his second consecutive goal of the month and player of the month, and as well goal of the month. because I thought he had the best goal this month, and he also scored 4 goals this month, but he gave it to Lingard for both of those. I think Iheanacho deserved both. And my awards: Player of the Season, Harry Kane, goals and assists. I don't need to say too much. For a long part of the season, for long periods of the season, people thought Kane was actually going to break Henry's record, which is just credit to how well he was playing. He had to deal with some injuries, so that was a little bit unfortunate. But he's outperformed his best ever season, 34 goal involvements this season, having 35. And I think like you said, one of Tottenham's worst seasons where most people are really not pulling their weight. I think since this is an individual award, I want to look at individual performances and results. I think Kane deserves to be the best player of the season. Signing of the season, Ruben Diaz. City basically solved City's defensive issues and has done it consistently. He's pretty much played all the games until now. They started resting people for bigger games. I think Diaz deserves. I don't think there's any signing that has had anywhere near as much impact as Ruben Diaz. Young player of the season, I have Kelechi Iheanacho. And I know there's people that say Phil Foden, but I think I did the math. Foden has played like 16.7 matches worth of 90s in the league, so hasn't even played enough to be half a season for us to say it's the young player of the season. So I won't really give it. I would be hesitant to give it to him there. I understand when people talk about Mason Mount. Definitely was in the running. Also, people like Bukayo Saka. I remember him dragging Arsenal from 15th in December. Those months where he was just doing everything for about 2 months. Really good sports. Melly, I also said, was in the running for me. But Iheanacho really, we're just not supposed to talk about what's happening elsewhere, but fired them to another trophy and really kept that momentum going, scoring almost every single game and putting in the crunch and the clutch period of the season performances worthy of being Leicester's player of the season.
So he hasn't played that many games either.
I think he'll be in the running for Leicester's player of the season.
No, I'm saying in terms of young player of the season, like Foden and Kelechi.
I think he's played more than Foden.
No, he hasn't, because he
played at the start of the season.
He started less games, and he's played less games.
So
Foden also has.
Yeah. So that first argument about Foden playing less games was I saw Foden in some people's teams of the season, and that's where I was like, okay, that doesn't really make sense. But for this, yes, they've both not played a full season's worth of minutes, but I also think Foden's impact on City has not been as much as Iheanacho's impact on Leicester. Iheanacho really stepped up to be the man. There was no point in the season where you thought Foden was the man for City in the title charge or what they were doing in the league. But since February, it's been very clear that there's only one man that's pushing Leicester forward, and that was Iheanacho. And I think when it mattered most, he stepped up, especially after all the issues that he's had at Leicester and not really nailing down the spot. I have to give him that for also kind of the comeback player thing that you mentioned as well. Coach of the season, David Moyes. Goal of the season, Lamella's goal against Arsenal, I think will go down in history. So I'll give it to him there. Any thoughts?
Just the Kelechi one. I get your points, I guess, but Foden, he won the league and key player, and that played as many games, if not, he actually played more games. He played 25 games. Kelechi has played 23, and he scored 7 goals, 5 assists, and he's playing in a team without a striker.
Kelechi's about to have a 20-goal season.
And Kelechi is he's one of those fake young players that is actually 24 years old, and Foden is literally just 20 years old. So
he's 21.
Yeah, no, it's 20, I think. But yeah, I'm going Foden.
Okay. Cool. So we move on to the next part. So right now, I want to get thoughts on what your best and worst Panenka penalties in history have been.
Worst. I've seen many like Panenkas go terribly. Like I know obviously we're doing this because of Aguero, but I'm trying to think of like the ones that have been just awful. Like
When
you
I say
start,
mine,
like
you remember.
yeah,
Okay, I
yeah,
have to go.
you start, yeah, you
My
start.
best Panenka ever, because I think this is when I fully registered. Because the 2006 World Cup final, I didn't fully register what it was. I just thought it was a bad penalty that hit the bar and went in. And like, I don't even know how they saw that
I know that
went
one.
in.
I think we agree. I
Yeah.
think we agree on that one.
Yeah. But my best actual Panenka penalty was Sebastian Abreu
Okay.
in the 2010 World Cup, Uruguay versus Ghana. I think that was the highest pressure penalty ever because they were supposed to go out. You had the thing Suarez did, Gian missing that penalty, then them going to penalties, and I just was not expecting. I thought he was going to just like blast it and win it, and he did that. I can never forget that penalty. Like I only know his name because of that penalty. I've never kept track of what he's done. And it actually was so well executed because I remember the ball floating in. Like it wasn't like these ones nowadays just seem like the keeper went the wrong way and it just went in. It actually floated in, and I can never forget that. And my worst Panenka ever was Ademola Lookman. When your team needs you to score so they can stay up in the Premier League, you have a 90-something minute penalty and you try Panenka and it doesn't come off. Yeah, that has to be the worst one. Aguero's only really matter, but that one was Scott Parker must have lost his mind when he saw that.
Yeah, so that's a good shout. Because I couldn't remember too many bad ones where like he missed badly. I mean, Aguero is one that stands out now, but Lookman is a good shout. But for me, the best one there too. Like I'm trying to. So there's one that Ramos did. I think it was in Euros or in the World Cup, and that really stood out to me for Spain. But I can't remember. I can't remember exactly the team it was. I think it was a penalty shootout. But yeah, the one that they made one for me is Zidane in the World Cup against Brazil, 2006. That was his legendary
Italy final.
Italy, sorry.
Yeah.
Italy in the final. That was a legendary against Buffon. Legendary performance. And obviously before he did his madness. That one stood out. That's one of those ones where that's when I hit the bar.
That penalty was crazy. Yeah. It hit the bar, hit the bar again, and came out. And
so that one just based on the like heart and mouth. And I was always a France guy. Like I wanted them to win that. So yeah, for me that was one that stood out, and it was like just like great TV. Like I said, like it hit the bar, went down. And it's just because of Zidane and that World Cup, he was just like floating on air. So it was just that's one that stood out to me. And yeah, so the worst one, I'll have to say Aguero. Like, look, man, yeah, but not. Whatever I'm saying now is like nothing really stood out to me. Like, oh, it's really
what do you think is coming? Is people are trying it more now? Is it because the era of compilations on YouTube is greater than it ever was before?
I think I actually think that people have been trying it more now, but I think it's going to stop because I think now more than ever keepers they gamble because now you know how like Fernandes, for instance, when you can it's almost like a cheat where players can literally hesitate. So like because of that hesitation, I feel like keepers are just like the way the rules are now. Keepers can't afford to not gamble. So like players and players are just really confident that a keeper is going to try and go see that side, so they do it. But like after what happened with Aguero and Mendy, I think you might start seeing a little trend where keepers might just, especially if you have the reach that Mendy has. But the way the penalties are set up now, it's such a disservice to keepers where you have to gamble, you have to guess, or else if you try and for a second maybe try and wait for a second to see, you're never going to get it. So I think it's just basically because of the way penalties are set up now, where keepers have to gamble, and that means players can they're more willing to try that. And like you said, we're in that YouTube era, Twitter era where everybody's trying to, like, the fact that someone like Ademola Lookman, like, has not done anything, is trying that in a pressure game like that tells you everything, because he was trying to get people talking on social media and stuff like that. You know how these guys are. So that definitely plays and plays a factor as well, because before it's only man like Zidane, people like that should be doing that. But
Exactly.
no, any man should not be trying.
I don't think Ronaldo has even ever done that.
Like I've not seen Cristiano. I've not seen. Not stands out. Like hits it low and hard. It's always been taught, but yeah. So I think social media era plus the way penalties are set up now, keepers really have to gamble.
Okay, dope. Let's go quickly into UCL and UEL recap. Now we know what the final is. Final, we have Chelsea, All English. I told you Arsenal were going to be the team to run the All English sweep. And we have Chelsea, City, and we have Man United, Villarreal.
So preview the final or review the semi-finals?
I think there wasn't much in, at least not in United's. I think the only one to really review was Arsenal and how on earth Unai Emery is in another Europa League final.
Yeah, another one is
inevitable.
So the Arsenal one. I thought they would sneak through, but I wasn't. I can't say I was shocked because once I saw the game, the way the game started, it was so obvious that, like, obviously they could have scored, they hit the bar, but it was quite obvious that I just don't know. Maybe because there were no fans, but I just don't know how you're 2-1 down in a semi-final going home, and you're doing like 10 passes across your back line. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. Like I understand Arsenal fans like anger because it was just like it was baffling.
It wasn't one of those ones where you lose and you're like, wow, we like really left it. It's like what was that?
They were acting like they were the
at the point, like in the second half, I think like 70 something minutes, Villarreal had 7 shots on target and Arsenal had 1. And I saw that stats. I was like, is this correct?
It was disgusting. Well, yeah, going to the final anyway. It's going to be from what I saw from Villarreal. To be honest, I didn't watch the first leg because I was watching United, but the second leg because United was 6-2 up. I watched the Arsenal
almost
game.
Almost threw it away, by the way.
Yeah. But like I watched the Arsenal game, and Villarreal. Honestly, they were after they lost Chukwueze, they were so ponderous. They were slow.
Is he going to be back?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I think is like 50-50. So yeah, they were so slow, so ponderous. Like Moreno up top is quite slow. You know how those like Spanish team, it was like a typical Spanish team where it's like a lot of like technical passes, but there was no pace. So that's why Chukwueze is their X factor. And from what I saw, I think United should win fairly comfortably if they have Maguire back. But like you said, with Unai, and with United being in our first final, like a lot of those players, they haven't actually played in the final. Obviously, Pogba has, Cavani has, etc. But for quite a few of them, like Maguire, our captain, this is probably going to be his first final. Bissaka hasn't played in the final before. Henderson, if he plays, hasn't been in the final before. All these guys like in England.
This is Villarreal's first ever final in Europe.
Yeah. But they have the man, the UEL, Unai Emery League. And United again, generally with Spanish teams, we don't fare too well. But from what I saw against Villarreal, like they will definitely struggle with our pace and our directness. The fact that United are actually a very, very strong, tall.
Obiol is like 35.
Physical. And like I said, Moreno is slow and it's quite ponderous. So, and Luke Shaw one-on-one is very good. He's very, very good one-on-one. So I think he'll be able to deal with Chukwueze. So I think United, I don't want to jinx it and whatever, I'm touching my word now. But like,
it's just
United should win that game fairly comfortably, just based on the fact that we have so many runners. We're such a strong, physical, tall team, and I think we'll have too much for them if we don't. Because obviously the pressure is on us. So if we don't bottle it, I think it should be a fairly comfortable 2-0, maybe 3-1 kind of thing. Maybe we'll concede a corner. We always concede corners. So maybe 2-1, 3-1. But I think United have that.
And based on what you saw in the second legs, what do you think is happening in the Champions League final?
It's a tough one. I still think City will be slight favourites. I think City will be slight favourites. I do think though that Chelsea are it's a good match in terms of like Chelsea are very well matched to counter City, just based on like I think Madrid would have been an easier tie for Man City than Chelsea would be because Chelsea are so good defensively. They are so good defensively.
They're going to beat Madrid up.
Exactly. It would have been bad. So I think, and also watching Chelsea play them in the league, in the FA Cup semi-final, I know there were some changes made on City side, but I think Chelsea are very, very well set up for Man City. And obviously, and if they play, we'll see Werner going in behind Mount's energy. And I would advise them not to play Werner up top, actually, if they could play Werner in one of the two positions in behind, like he did against Madrid. And maybe you can have a Havertz there up front to kind of link up the play. But I think it'll be a very good match. But I think City will edge it. Maybe 1-0, because Chelsea also struggled to score goals. 34 goals in 27 games for Tuchel's team. And I think that's really abysmal. They've considered 13, but 34 in 27 is really poor. So I think it'll be a very tightly contested game. City will be nervous. Their first ever final. Pep knows what's at stake. They're the favorites. If they lost it, it'd be way more of a big deal than if Chelsea lost it. So I think it'll be a tight one. So I see a 1-0 or 2-1 to Man City.
Okay. And actually, while we're on the topic of Chelsea, do you think, let's talk a little bit about the top four race. And do you think things can unravel now for Chelsea between now and the end of the season? We'll do a little bit about Leicester and the FA Cup right after this. But Chelsea lost to Arsenal, which was just the most ridiculous defeat in terms of if you actually watch the game, but also just they did not need that, because now they're going into this game midweek against Leicester again with so much to play for. Liverpool, we'll talk about them, I guess, scored the last minute winner today, so they're really in the hunt. They can really get to 69 points. And if Chelsea don't win the FA Cup, don't win Champions League, and miss out on top four, it starts to look like it hasn't been that good a season.
It's crazy, man. Football is just the margins are so fine, because we thought, Tuchel came in, everything all rosy, and when there's a possibility of something like, so he's in 2 finals, he could win 2 trophies, but sometimes you don't think about the adverse situation, because like you said, that Arsenal one really, really put them in trouble, because they play Leicester on Tuesday, and that's a really, really, really big game. But imagine after this FA Cup final loss, don't make top 4, now losing Champions League as probably most people expect them to, then it's a really dicey.
Will he get sacked?
He's on an 18-month contract, so I don't know if he'll get sacked. I don't know if he'll get sacked. I don't think he'll get sacked, but people were already talking about renewing the contract, so that might be dicey. But it's fine. It's really, really fine margins. But I worry for Leicester though, because I don't think they're going to beat Chelsea twice in 3 days, just based on just how football works more often than not. Like it's rare that you beat them in the FA Cup final and you now beat them again in the league at Stamford Bridge.
If they do, though, it's not that difficult for Chelsea, because I remember when Chelsea finished, was it 10th or something? Or 6th? Maybe it was 6th that season. But the season they won the Champions League, and it was 10th, because they were having a very poor season under Mourinho. That they won the Champions League, and then they went. No, it wasn't Mourinho, but the season that Di Matteo came in.
When they won
Champions League,
they finished 5th, I think.
Really poor season. Yeah, they finished outside the top 4 because they won the Champions League. I remember, I think it was Spurs that finished 4th and they're making Champions League. So all Chelsea really have to do is beat City.
But they've changed that rule,
Really?
Yeah. So it'll be 5 teams now. If Chelsea win, it'll be 5 teams.
Okay. I mean, so if Chelsea win, they're fine either way.
No matter what, either way. Yeah.
So all they need to do is
my thing is just for Spurs, but Leicester too, though, because even if let's say they draw on Tuesday, Leicester still have to beat Spurs on the final day. So I think Leicester are going to miss out.
Wow.
I think Leicester are going to miss out, because even a draw is not good enough, because if they draw, they'll be on 67, and Liverpool are going to win their last 2 games. We know that. But they will need to beat
Spurs.
They will need to beat Spurs, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Even though it's at King Power.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It will be tough. Let's say it will be tougher for them to do that, because they also have a very bad record.
Really wish Liverpool drew today.
Yeah. But Liverpool are gonna. I think they're gonna make it. And I
need some Sean Dyche miracle next week. I mean, you said it, but really things have conspired to help them out. Like Chelsea losing to Arsenal and Leicester losing 4-2 to Newcastle at home. Like and then United football. Resting their whole team and still losing 4-2 at home.
That's football.
Yeah, no, I see it.
But I think they'll. I hope they don't, but I think they will.
Let's move to League One. Quick thoughts on the League One title race.
think Lille are going to do it. I think they're playing right now at the moment, aren't they? Oh, they're drawing. They're drawing 0-0. But yeah, I think they're going to do it. Let me see. I know they're drawing now. Half time. But I'll be sad. Like I'm a Poch guy, and like my anti-Poch people are already on my neck that he goes there and and they bottle, because all they have to do today is to win and it's over.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I think Ligue is head to head as well. But actually, they need 4 points. But if they win today, all they need is one more point. So to clinch it. So I think
it's crazy because I looked at it and they've drawn 10 games and won less than PSG actually. And then I looked at some PSG have lost 8 times.
And 8 times, yeah. But my rebuttal is that Poch took the job in second, so when they were second, so
no. They definitely hasn't bottled the league. I know a lot of people like to say that, but the real people you should look at is the team.
The team, yeah.
The reason why that PSG team should be losing 8 times in Liga.
So let's see how that goes.
And then the title race that's really, really still going, that's going down to the last day. La Liga. Quick thoughts on that. We saw some late drama today.
Yeah, big result for Atleti. Because if they had drawn that or lost that, I think that might have been difficult for them. Yeah. Madrid, they know how to share house their way through to get results, and they would have done that. They did that against Bilbao today. They would have done that against Villarreal next week. But yeah, no, I think it's done now. I think it's done. I think this was the result. I know you're still worried that they might bottle it next week.
Yeah, because they're facing a team fights for their lives.
I think this was the result. This was the one. They're not gonna, for one game to win the title against a team that's 18th or 19th in Valladolid. I think this was the one. Because a draw won't be good enough because of head to head. But I think this was the one, and I think it's done.
We look forward to it. And what thoughts on Barcelona completely casting themselves out of the race?
Yeah, it's I think Koeman has to go, and they're
and the Aguero deal.
There are reports that is that confirmed now. Oh, it looks like it's going to happen.
They said that after Champions League they're likely going to do it. Which then it doesn't make sense for Suarez being sold at I think 30, same age, 33.
Yeah,
and
33.
Now signing Aguero on a 2-year deal at 33.
One's more injury prone and not as robust as.
And I think it's more of just Barcelona bad recruitment that has gotten them to where they are right now. I mean, Aguero is a football legend, but really.
Yeah, Barca, like say, in terms of their results, they definitely bottled it, and Celta Vigo at home, they bottled it to Levante as well. So
and Granada,
and that Atleti game they had at home as well. That was a game to win it, and to who knows what would have happened if they won that.
Yeah,
but so they only have themselves to blame, and they haven't been good enough to be fair. So I think it's fair enough that they don't kind of sneak their way into the final.
And last thing on the agenda, the special one going to a special city. News that came out of nowhere: Mourinho going back to Italy, where he did what had never been done before, won the treble, and what has still never been done before. And how that kind of came as a surprise, because I think he said he was going to take a little break, do some stuff for the Euros. And what do you think that means, one, for Italian football? But also, now that there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in Syria with Juventus fighting for their lives to get into Champions League and Inter winning. So I'll give my thoughts first. So we're right now in an interesting situation with Juventus not being the powerhouse that they've always been. So there were so many years of dominance for Juventus. You saw all the titles under Allegri, under Conte, and now it looks like they might actually miss out on Champions League football. You're seeing the resurgence of AC Milan with Zlatan Ibrahimovic leading that, and all their players, their young players coming through, and Rebic having a fantastic season, and seeing sort of Syria being quote unquote ripe for disruption. So I think this signing Mourinho to AS Roma actually makes a lot of sense for Roma, but also for Mourinho to come into a league that I think there's lots of opportunities for stuff to happen, especially now that it's sort of in a transition stage. Inter over the last 2 seasons, I think have just finally now become the powerhouse that they used to be before. AC Milan back, Juventus still in that transition period, Napoli, and I think Roma is one of those teams that they have a lot of expectations, but they haven't quite lived up to them over the years. And their last trophy was 2008. So I think it represents that challenge that Mourinho always seems to be looking for. But I also think the league is ripe for disruption, unlike the Bundesliga, where Bayern still have that stranglehold on things, or unlike La Liga, where if you go, you're still going to be competing with those three juggernauts at the top, And I think Serie A is actually now opening up to a bit more contenders. And I think that represents a really exciting prospect, not just for next season, because I don't think much can really happen in one season, but with the young players like Zaniolo that they have and Mourinho kind of understanding Italy, I think 2 seasons from now, Roma might actually be able to do some really good things.
Yeah, no, some good points there. I'd agree. The thing about it there is twofold. So basically, you're right. There's a vacuum in Serie A now for contenders to potentially get to the top. So Conte took that opportunity. Juve is obviously in massive transition. They probably won't make Champions League. Then you've got the likes of Napoli, Milan. All these teams they're all in a similar kind of position at the moment, where there's like I said, there's a vacuum. So Mourinho could potentially bridge that gap. But my issue with Roma is, like I said, there's big expectation on them, but they're financially in really, really big problems. And that team needs a massive, massive facelift. You look at their star players, we just played them. Their star players are Dzeko, 35, can't really move as much anymore. Then you've got the likes of Mkhitaryan in his 30s, then you've got Smalling, you've got these guys, Pedro, these guys there. And there's not that much quality in the team. It's okay, but that team needs a facelift, especially if Mourinho wants to do what Mourinho does. So it will take time, but the issue is just, can they fund the makeover that's needed? But again, on the other hand, I do think, like we saw, Inter's last title was Mourinho in 2010 or 2011. And so I think Mourinho's football possibly could work better in Serie A, in a slower, more patient league, where those really fine details that Mourinho tends to focus on, where it could really pay fruits. But my thing is just, Roma are in a lot of financial problems at the moment. So I don't know if it's the right job for him, where I know he doesn't really have much of a choice anymore, because unfortunately he has to kind of rebuild himself again. But I worry that it might be a situation where he fails and people might look at it again as a Mourinho failure, whereby he's picked a job where I don't know they'll be able to give him the support he needs to do the rebuild that he needs. But like you said, there is a vacuum there, and I can see why he loved the challenge. Great city, historic team, and I said he could potentially win that league. Premier League, that wasn't going to happen based on the quality of teams that are there, quality of managers, and the resources that those teams have. But in Serie A,
back to what I was
definitely more of
saying,
an opportunity.
60 million of Mahrez to be on the bench.
Exactly, Ake, all these people.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think there's that opportunity in Serie A. I just wish he maybe waited a bit more, because I think Conte is a very combustible guy. I think that would.
Mourinho going back to Inter is not a challenge.
Yeah, he doesn't need challenges now. He needs wins. He needs gimmies.
If he wanted to do that, I honestly feel like he could have stayed at Inter. If he stayed at Inter when he did all the things that he did, he would have just padded a ton.
No, I mean, but it's a different time now. So I mean, now of course, then like I get why he did that, but I'm saying now, like I feel.
I'm saying every time he has had a chance to start pad, he's chosen to not do that. Unlike other managers.
Recently, but he doesn't really have the opportunity anymore, like to go to a team that is guaranteed to win. And I'm saying, like, I wish if he had the opportunity for Inter or something, he waited a bit more. But I get he's passionate about the game. He loves the game, and he wanted to get back into it. And Roma is a nice little challenge for him, but I just worry that the conditions might not be good enough for him to succeed.
Awesome. Any last thoughts on anything?
No. What's the Everton game?
So what's that saying?
Oh wow, they lost 1-0 at home. Wow.
Not surprising. My captain was DCL, so my FPL in the mud. I don't know why I did that. Every time I try to do something to this is so annoying. Every time I try to do something to kind of help my rank, we're doing something that's sort of a risk, but not really a risk. Like DCL at home to Sheffield United that are relegated, that have nothing to play for, while Everton are still trying to fight for Europe, and then they lose 1-0 at home.
I put it in my team.
This Goodison impact from this season needs to be discussed.
Yeah.
They've lost to everyone. Except Arsenal. They've lost to everyone. Wow. Okay. Any other thoughts on anything?
No.
So once again, whether you're analyzing the game, doing a deep dive, sharing your opinion on socials, just make sure you ask yourself, Rebecca, please help us out.
Do I know ball?
Thank you so much. Good night.